basically what I'm trying to do is create a map that covers the space that I need to cover. Something you'll have to play with a little bit. Maybe you have to put another section in there, get it wide enough. But where I'm going with this is that, show this sketch. Once you create the map that you need here, you can then cut off using another sketch. So alright, so now, like I said, you'll have to tweak this loft to get that, to get it exactly the right shape that you want. So now you have the issue of how do these two things connect and how do you hollow this out? Because you can't shell it now, because if you shelled it right now, it's going to shell the handle too. So what I would do is do a new sketch on your top plane or whatever your reference plane is for this. And basically I'm going to cut out the area that's connecting. Keep all body. So now I can shell this part separate. Spoon obviously not very realistic, but and then you'll need to create another loft or something to connect these two back up. So you can do a sketch on this face and on here, and then you're going to have a weird edge in here, but you can just cut that out using cut extrude or whatever, a revolve cut, whatever, depending on what geometry you have in there. Like this one right now, because I have this weird, goes beyond the cup shape, it's like, almost closed. That wouldn't work here because it's just funky, but if it was half open, then I could do just another loft between those two surfaces, close that up. This, I'll try it. I don't think it's going to work because my, there's a weird shape here, but if your shapes are more normal, this should be able to work. But yeah, so it's not going to fly. But you guys kind of see what I'm getting at? You want to see me make that work? I'll have to go back and tweak my sketches so that they're in the right places. But
can't you just make a plane right there?
Yeah, I can. But what'll happen is, in fact, I don't even have to make a plane. I can just sketch right on there, and I can just do, I can use this. But what's going to happen is that I'm going to have this big, right angle going on. So this one should work. It'll be a little funky. problem with my sketch currently. Do that, connect them and then so it's not like a tangent piece of two face because it doesn't know which face I'm talking about. It can't do tangent with a square and with curved face. So I'll just leave that for none for now. Just whatever. And, you know, as I said, you could, if you didn't have this weird geometry, you could then create a cut sweep that uses this face as the profile and then the curve. So if I were to, for example, create a sketch that did something like that, and I could do a cut sweep from this face. I don't think I made my curve here so short. So again, I'm getting this weird thing cutting out right here because of my undercut. But if your section on this plane doesn't go back over, but it's only a half, you know, a U shape instead of what I've got is a sort of a C shape, then you won't have this problem. You'll be able to sweep that right up in there without getting this weird, you know, digging out. So you guys kind of see what I'm getting at? There's a lot of different ways to connect these two things, and it will depend on what your shapes are. The other thing is, you know, obviously you're not going to want a sharp-edged spoon, so one of the things you may want to do before you join the two parts is put that an edge, a fillet on the edge. You can do it afterward as well, but it'll depend on your own geometry. So, you know, I'd have to go back and obviously do this a little bit more carefully to have this work, but you guys kind of get what I'm going for here? Mm-hmm. Think you'll be able to pull this off for homework? I want you guys to do a spoon for homework. The main thing I want you guys to look out for is getting these faces to be, you know, tangent, or the other sort of relationship between surfaces is the curvature continuous. I don't know if you guys have dealt with this at all in Rhino or other programs. So the difference between, let me show you the difference between, well, first, the option here is in your loft feature when you do your start and end constraints. Looks like I didn't even put on the tangency to face. But that's the tangency. So see how that looks pretty smooth? It's not perfectly smooth, it's pretty smooth. If I show the curvature, you'll see that there's you see how the color change doesn't happen. So the other option instead of tangency is curvature to face, which is a little bit different than tangency. You can see here it's not working for me. I must have my sketches not working. But let me show you what the difference is between curvature and tangency. Which this is like a finer point thing, but it's like if you ever have chrome, like really glossy surfaces that you need to render and perfect, this is the way you can do it. So I'm just going to start a new part here, and I'm going to create a part with an arc and make sure those arcs are tangent to the faces. I'm just going to do a little extrude. So, as you can see, I've got these three separate faces now, because I have three separate curves. If I look at those under the curvature, you'll see that there's an abrupt, the curvature here is exactly the same all the way throughout, and then it stops because it becomes a straight line. The curvature is 0 on there. So, if you do curvature instead of tangency, which you can only do curvature with spline. But let me show you. So if I wanted the same curve but using spline, you select multiple segments in the sketch, and underneath your spline tool, you can go fit spline. And what that's doing, you can see you're popping up the curvature cones again here. This is making these three segments into one spline. And in doing that, it actually smooths out the surface. So then I don't have that abrupt transition between the curve here. You can see it's the same color of green in here, the same curvature, but then it gradually changes it to the flat instead of doing it all of a sudden. So that's the difference between curvature and tangency. Do you guys see that difference? I know it's a little abstract, and it's, as I said, it's probably only come up when you have really shiny surfaces that are looking like there's a gap between them. Not a gap, but a break in your surface. That is how you can get around it. So,
Is that going to change your geometry by any noticeable amount?
no, in fact, you can control that. So, in your sketch, it actually leaves the original geometry there. As you can see, it just makes it construction geometry. So if you don't like the spline, you can always delete it, and your other geometry is still there. And if it had constraints and everything, all that would still be there. I just didn't constrain this at all. So when you do the fit spline, you can control how true it is to your original geometry. So see this tolerance option. This shows how tight you want it to adhere to your geometry. So if you, right now it's huge, but you saw when I first put it on, it was, it's a very low number. So basically, the smaller this number, the tighter fit it will be with your existing geometry. So you can play with that and get it, just the sort of how smooth it is and where that happens. So you see the color change when I change that tolerance. So anyway, don't worry too much about that curvature thing. It's kind of a high-end surfacing thing when you get to that level. But I just want to make you aware of it, just because it's a concept I think that is important to know about early on, even if you don't use it much. When you run into this thing where you'll see a surface that you know it's tangent because you made geometry tangent, but it still looks like there's a break. It still looks like there's a line where the two surfaces come together, and that's why. That's what that is. So, all right. Well, if you guys think you're good on creating the spoon, that is going to be the homework. I would like you guys to do it based on using that insert sketch picture, and I want you to use any of the features that we've used so far, but I want this thing to be, I want all the surfaces to be continuous. So if you're using, so I used the revolve here, and a loft, and as you saw, another loft, and a shell, and all these things. But so what I'm looking for is for you guys to get these surfaces nice and smooth. I don't want to see anything that looks like I don't want to see anything that looks like that. See how there's that bulge? Turn off the... So, see what I'm talking about? I want you guys to make these surfaces all continuous with each other. I don't want to see any, abrupt changes like that.
Is that a shelling? Can we just do a loft cut?
Yes, you can cut it out any way you want. You don't have to shell it. You do whatever works. You're going to have to probably play with this. It probably won't work the first time. Just try a couple different ways to accomplish this, and depending on the shape of your spoon, I would sort of recommend that you go for something symmetrical, but you don't have to. You can make it asymmetrical. It's just going to be more work to make it asymmetrical because you'll have to essentially do all your lofts or whatever on both sides. So I recommend symmetrical. You don't have to. And again, like I said before, as some of you guys did with the bottle using the loft, you can make it, if you wanted to do your loft handle so that it zigzags or does some crazy shape sideways, that's fine. But just like I said, I want all these surfaces to be, nice and smooth, to come together. Does that make sense? All right. That's it. So I haven't posted the thing on Moodle yet, but I will do that tonight, and the assignment. But yeah, so thanks a lot, guys. Good luck.